You sign the lease on a Tuesday, 20,000 square feet of empty concrete, and you can already see it. The rows of machines, the mirrors, the front desk with your name behind it. People will walk in soft and walk out strong. You will know their names. You will sell a thing that genuinely works, and they will thank you for charging them for it. And the money looks beautiful. A membership is $15 a month. Get 7,000 people to pay it and you never chase an invoice again. It simply arrives every month while you sleep. That is the fantasy. It survives about 90 seconds of arithmetic. Here is the number that ends it. At the end of 2025, Planet Fitness reported 20.8 million members across 2,896 clubs. That is roughly 7,183 members per location. The average club is about 20,500 square feet. Divide one by the other. Every member owns 2.8 square feet of gym. A yoga mat is 6. If one member in 10 walked in at the same time, that is over 700 people in a room built to hold maybe 200. The business does not survive that. It depends on it never happening. The treadmill was never the business. The empty treadmill was. Hold on to that sentence because every number from here runs downstream of it. So let's open one. By the end, you will have the real ledger, what it costs to unlock the doors, where the money genuinely comes from, and the clause that quietly reroutes your profit somewhere else. We will do this as a franchise for one reason. Franchises are legally required to publish their costs. Every figure from here has a filing behind it. First, kill the picture in your head. You are not opening a place where people get fit. You are opening a place where people intend to get fit and pay monthly for the intention. The Health and Fitness Association tracked visits across nearly 11,000 American facilities in 2025. The average location logged more than 184,000 visits that year. Spread that across our 7,000 members, and you get roughly 26 visits per member per year, once a fortnight. That is an industry-wide average rather than one club's books, so treat it as a shape, not a measurement. And it is drifting. Average attendance sat at about 1.5 visits a week in 2024, down from 2.1 in 2019. People are buying gyms and using them less. Notice what you are not selling. Personal training is a different business with different margins. So are boutique studios charging by the class. Those are service businesses. Yours is closer to a landlord with dumbbells. Your product is a recurring charge on a card, attached to a room that most of the people paying will not enter this month. Everything else is set dressing. Now the bill. The 2025 franchise disclosure document puts the total initial investment for one Planet Fitness club at between $1.5 and $5.2 million. Be honest about that spread. It is the gap between a cheap secondhand unit in a dying strip mall and a full build-out in an expensive city. Neither end of the range is a lie. Start with the piece everyone underestimates. Equipment runs $400,000 to $900,000 for a single location. Rows of cardio machines, squat racks, plate stacks, benches, cable towers, enough steel to fill a shipping container several times over. That is not a shopping trip. That is roughly a quarter of your entire opening budget, sitting on a rubber floor, losing value from the day it is bolted down. And unlike the lease, you cannot renegotiate it later. The franchise fee itself is almost a rounding error, $20,000 paid once at signature. It buys the name and the manual, and it is the cheapest line on the page. The expensive part is the room, 20,000 square feet of retail space, leased for 10 or 15 years, and signed before a single member exists. No trial period, no break clause that a landlord will actually give you. Read that again. You commit to a decade of rent on the strength of a spreadsheet. The lease does not shrink when the membership does. It is the one cost you cannot manage, only survive. Then the build-out. Flooring that survives dropped plates, locker rooms, showers, ventilation heavy enough to move the air of several hundred sweating people, and the electrical capacity to run 100 screens. Add signage, a point-of-sale system, security cameras, the tanning beds and massage chairs the premium tier promises, plus permits, legal work, and an opening marketing push. Take the midpoint of the disclosed range, and you are at roughly $3.33 million to open one suburban gym. Most of that is borrowed, which means the debt starts before the first member does. For scale, that is about what 40 average American households earn in a year, spent to build one room with weights in it. And you have not yet sold a single membership. Staffing is where the low-price model earns its margin, and it earns it by subtraction. A budget gym runs deliberately thin. A front desk, cleaning, a manager, a maintenance rotation. There is nobody on the floor watching your form because somebody on the floor is a salary. Compare two ways to put a trainer in the building. Employ them, and you carry a wage, payroll taxes, holiday, sick cover, and the risk that the room sits empty. Or rent them the floor. The trainer sells their own sessions, keeps their own clients, and pays you a cut or a flat fee. A smaller number, but a number with no downside attached. That is why so many gyms are full of trainers the gym does not employ. The variable risk sits with the person holding the clipboard. Cleaning is the line nobody puts in the pitch deck and everybody regrets cutting. A gym is a room where several hundred strangers a day sweat on shared metal, then hand it to the next person without a word. Cut the cleaning budget and nothing happens for a month. Then the reviews turn. And reviews are the entire acquisition channel for a gym that competes on price. So payroll stays small, deliberately. It is also the only major cost you genuinely control. Remember that when we reach the bad year. Now the costs that arrive whether anybody shows up or not. Rent, first and largest. You are renting retail square footage priced for shops that sell things at retail margins. You are filling it with people paying $19 a month. Electricity, second. Long hours, heavy ventilation running constantly, hot water for the showers, and in a cold month, heating a space with roughly the volume of a small warehouse. None of it optional. And it never stops. A 24-hour gym is a building that is never dark, never idle, and never cheap. At 3 in the morning, with 2 people on the floor, the lights and the air handling cost exactly what they cost at 6 in the evening. Third, equipment service. Machines under constant load break constantly. Cables fray, belts stretch, bearings give out, and upholstery splits. Budget 3 to 8% of the equipment value every year just to keep it running. A broken machine is worse than an expense. It is a sign, standing in the middle of your floor, that this place is not being looked after. Fourth, insurance, club management software, card processing on 7,000 small recurring payments, and music licensing. Small individually, together, a line you notice at the end of every month. Notice the pattern. You control almost none of these prices. The landlord sets one, the utility sets another, and the franchisor, as we are about to see, sets the biggest of all. So where does the money actually come from? Climb the ladder from the bottom. Bottom rung, the incidentals, drinks, protein bars, branded shirts, a locker rental. Genuine margin, trivial volume. Useful, but this is not why anybody signs a $3 million lease. One rung up, the base membership, $15 a month, advertised on every window. And note that 15 is itself the result of a 50% increase for new members. They raised the headline price by half and still added over 1 million net new members in 2025. Higher, the premium tier. Planet Fitness sells a black card at $24.99 a month. In 2025, 66.5% of members held one. 2/3 of the base upgraded. That is the real business hiding behind the $15 sign. The company reported average monthly dues of $19.51 per member in 2025, 30% above the advertised price. Now multiply. 7,183 members at $19.51 a month is roughly $1.68 million a year in dues, from a room you already committed to paying for. And near the top, the annual fee. $49 once a year per member on top of everything else. It is not a membership charge and it is not for anything specific. It simply arrives. Across 7,000 members, that is another $350,000 a year. Almost pure margin because it is attached to no additional service whatsoever. No extra staff, no extra equipment, no extra square foot. Put the dues and the annual fee together and you land near $2 million. Planet Fitness reports average unit volumes of approximately 2.0 million at its corporate clubs. The arithmetic closes. But look at how that top rung is collected. The fee is charged automatically. To avoid it, a member must cancel in person at their home club or by certified mail before the 25th of the preceding month. In a business whose members visit once a fortnight, a cancellation process that requires a physical visit is not an administrative detail. It is a revenue line. Which brings us to the clause that decides whether you get rich or merely stay very busy for 15 years. Planet Fitness reports 4-wall-adjusted margins of about 42.7% at its corporate clubs. On $2 million of sales, that is roughly $850,000 before corporate costs. Then the royalty, 7% of gross sales, forever, to the franchisor, plus a contribution to the National Advertising Fund. That same margin, royalty adjusted, falls to about 35.3%. 7% sounds modest. On $2 million in sales, it is $140,000 a year, and it is charged on revenue, not on profit. It falls due in a bad year too. But the royalty is not the interesting part. This is. Franchisees are contractually obliged to buy their equipment from the franchisor or its required vendors, and to replace it roughly every 5 to 9 years. Read that as a business model rather than a rule. The franchisor buys equipment from the manufacturers at bulk negotiated prices and resells it to its own franchisees at a markup. You are not a partner in that transaction. You are the customer. And the numbers are not small. Equipment segment revenue was $227.7 million in 2022. In the third quarter of 2025 alone, it was $78.8 million, up 27.8% on the year before. So the franchisor holds 3 claims on your gym: 20,000 at signing, 7% of everything, forever, and a mandatory equipment purchase on a clock you do not set. With 2,604 franchised clubs against 292 it owns outright, the corporation's best customer was never the person on the treadmill. It was the person who bought the treadmill. Now the ways this ends badly. First, the January problem. The demand curve has a spike in it, and the people who join in January are the least likely to stay. Nearly half of new members quit within 6 months, and most cancellations land between months 2 and 4. So you acquire your membership in the most expensive month of the year, on the most heavily discounted terms of the year, and lose a large share of it before summer. Every year, forever. Second, the price floor. When your product is cheap, the only move available to a new gym across the road is cheaper, and you cannot follow them down because your lease did not get cheaper. Third, the equipment clock. Every 5 to 9 years, the mandatory refit comes around. $400,000 to $900,000 on a schedule set by contract, arriving whether the last few years were good or not. And fourth, the lease itself. 10 to 15 years, fixed. Membership can fall by a third in a bad economy. Staff can be cut. Marketing can be paused. The rent cannot be touched. So, could you actually get rich? Take a healthy year, $2 million in sales, at the royalty-adjusted margin of 35.3%. That is about $706,000. Now start subtracting what that margin leaves out. Set aside the equipment refit, say $650,000 across 7 years, and $93,000 a year disappears before you have touched anything else. Then the debt. Most franchisees borrow the bulk of a $3 million build. Interest and principal on that is not a rounding error. After rent, it is the largest check you write, and it arrives every month for a decade. And then the line every owner forgets: your own wage. If you are running this gym, you are doing a general manager's job, and a general manager gets paid. Take the market rate for that job out of the profit because an honest ledger must, and a comfortable 6-figure return becomes a modest one on a $3 million bet. Which is the real answer? One gym is a good job you paid $3 million to hire yourself into. The wealth in this industry is in the second gym, the 5th, the 20th, or in selling the equipment to everybody else's. Go back to the room. 7,000 members, 20,500 square feet, 2.8 square feet each, and a business model that quietly hopes most of them stay home tonight. The treadmill was never the business, the empty treadmill was.